Hello, and thank you again for taking part in our SASE Expert Level 3 as our example for this demo. And here we are in it, a little overview of every site and user that's connected or configured in your environment. So currently I have, 3 configured. 2 are cloud data centers using our virtual socket. The third is an IPsec tunnel, but all are disconnected right now because I'm not using them in this demo. So let's start where any good project starts, onboarding a new site. So in the past, I've worked with, kind of cases like this with legacy deployments, and, there's a lot of business cases here. Maybe you're expanding and you're opening new locations, which is very exciting, or maybe you acquired another company and you want to bring them, very rapidly underneath your security protection, as well as enable access and connectivity to resources that they need from your organization. Either of these can be challenging with legacy approaches, as you might need to ship hardware and, well, first get hardware, ship it, send someone who knows what they're doing to rack and stack it, get it all connected, and then have someone who knows what they're doing configure it. And this can take a long time for just one site. Now, Cato and SASE in general has simplified that to some extent, as far as we have this device called a socket. So the Cato socket is a very simple device. It's low cost, and it's an OpEx rather than a CapEx investment, making it easier to consume and a lot more agile and flexible. But the real brilliance of the socket is that it provides edge SD-WAN capabilities as well as seamless zero-touch connection to the Cato SASE cloud. So I have a couple of sockets here that are already connected, and it's pretty simple. Anyone can do it. You could send it to any location and just walk a employee there through it on the phone, right? You just have to plug it into power, connect a LAN, connect WAN, and that's pretty much it. Once it's connected, it'll power up, it'll update, it'll connect to the Cato SASE cloud, and it'll automatically give you a notification within your account. So let's take a look at that notification now. So as you can see, we have a orange indicator here showing that we have new notifications. If we click that, we can see that we have 2 sockets, brand new, up and running and ready to go. So they say New York, that's only because one of the connections they're using is a 5G connection from Verizon that drops them out at New York, but they're really located in Houston, Texas. So we're not going to accept these just yet. First, we're going to create a new site to use these with. Now, sites are all configured on their network, and you can see we're taken right to the site's page. Very easy, right? New, obviously. And we're going to name this site Houston. So site type, this is very much for logical and easy quick identification when you're using the application. There's a few options to choose from, but for this we're going to choose branch. Connection type, we have a few options available, right? You can use our socket X1500, our socket X1700. You can use IPsec, vSocket, whatever makes sense for your specific needs at the time. In this case, these are socket X1500 devices, so we're going to select X1500. Country is United States. State is Texas. Scroll down here, select Texas, and the time zone updates automatically. Now for the WAN interface settings, first we're going to enable WAN 2, and then we're going to enter our expected bandwidth for each link. So this is based on what the provider is committed to, and in the case of our WAN 1 link here, it's a 1 gig fiber connection, so we'll do 1 gig up and down. And then our backup 5G connection is about 300 down, 15 up. The last thing we have to do is define the native range that is in use at that location for the LAN. And for this, we'll put 192.168.10.0/24. And we'll click apply. So as you can see, our Houston site has been added. It's still not connected because we haven't actually attached our sockets to it. So let's go ahead and pop back to our notifications. And let's see which socket we want to assign to this. This is the one that I want to make the primary. So we're going to accept here. And we're going to assign this to our brand new Houston site. Go ahead and click OK. And the site has been assigned successfully. So what's going to happen now is the socket will reconnect to the appropriate POP that is the best performing for its location. And it'll take a couple minutes to get up running online. But that's really it, right? Once this is done running through its process, we had a few mouse clicks here. We didn't have to do anything special or remember any kind of crazy commands or order of operations. We did all of this, and we can be up and running, ready to pass traffic, provide secure connectivity to all of our resources, as well as enforce security policies and active inspection of content in just a few minutes. So let's close out of this, and then we'll go to our new Houston site, and we'll click Site Configuration and Socket. So this is our socket information page. As you can see, our socket is still coming online, shows disconnected, shows both WAN links down, but we'll give it a few minutes and come back, and then we'll refresh, and we should be connected. So it's been about 3 minutes, we're back, and everything is connected and ready to go. Now, this is pretty amazing, especially from a site deployment perspective. I mean, I know we have some customers that have very small IT teams that are managing their Cato deployments. One example is a very large retail customer in the United States, has an effective team of 2 that is managing their Cato deployment, and they're deploying 15 sites a week, which is, lightning speed compared to what we're used to in the legacy world. And SASE really makes that possible, especially when you have something like a socket X1500 that can, very easily connect and be ready to pass traffic to the SASE cloud. Now, beyond this, you might have thought about the need for high availability. And it might be something that you've prioritized at certain locations in the past, or not that at all, just based on the complexity of managing and deploying it, but also the expenses involved. And like I stated before, right? These sockets, they're simple devices, they're low cost, OpEx, so it's really accessible to have high availability everywhere that makes sense for your business. And it's even easier to deploy, right? So we already deployed this one socket and connected it to our Houston site. All we have to do to create an HA pair is to take our second socket that we have here still on our notification list and apply it to the same site. So we're going to click accept here. We're going to assign this to the same Houston site. And you see here we have an option, right? We can either replace the current socket in case we had an issue with it, or we're doing a swap out or something, or we can set it as a warm spare. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll click OK. And that's all you have to do. Of course, it's going to take a few minutes. It has to do the same thing. It has to stand up its tunnel to the best performing POP for the location. It also has to establish a keep alive between it and the primary socket. So if we close this notification, we can refresh this page and we'll see the second socket. It probably won't be ready yet. It's going to take a couple minutes. And so there it is, but we'll check back in a few minutes and we should be good to go. So it's been just a couple of minutes and we're back. And as you can see, our HA pair is now ready. We have our primary socket and we have our standby socket all up and good to go. Now, this is extremely powerful. In just a couple of clicks, we're able to deliver high availability to prevent productivity and revenue loss at this location. And I've never been able to stand up an HA pair as easy as this or as quickly. If you think about it, right, we stood up a new site and delivered HA to it in, I don't know, 5-10 minutes at the most. And that includes waiting, which is time that we could go get a cup of coffee or do something else productive. So this site is up and running. It's ready to pass traffic. And you're probably thinking, well, yeah, I have sites. That's cool. We can send those up easily. But what about our mobile users, right? Maybe you have a lot of users that are wanting to work remotely or part-time remote, especially after COVID. It's a lot more popular now. Organizations have had great success with this. Employees love it. Or maybe you have employees that travel and you want to make sure that they have connectivity and security anywhere they are. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. So for this, we'll go ahead and click on Access. And we see we have our built-in user database here with a couple users that I've configured already for the purposes of other demos and things that I've done. Of course, you have options here, right? You can use our built-in user database. You can use single sign-on with a provider like Azure Active Directory, Okta, One Login, a few options. Or you can synchronize from your on-premise Active Directory server as well. So tons of options available to you as far as how you provision users. But all of them are very simple and designed to enable your business to move as quickly as you like. Now, the built-in user database is extremely useful, even if you're using one of the other authentication methods, because you can manually just quickly add a user and give them access to a resource. And this could be, a brand new employee that you got to get up and running really quickly. This could be, someone who's not in your IDP, like a contractor or a third party that you need to provide some level of access to, very quickly, maybe to resolve an issue. So in this case, we can do this by clicking New. So New, and we just have to enter 3 things: first name, last name, and email. So in this case, we'll name this SASE Expert. And the email will be saseexpert@cato.marketing. Click apply. All right, so we see our user has been added. What happens next is the user will be sent an email with the self-service onboarding. And so this email, in this case, since we're using the built-in database, the email will allow them to create a password, download the Cato client, and download the certificate that they need in order to perform TLS inspection and to properly display block pages. Now let's go ahead and refresh this page and see the status. So it looks like our user went from new to invitation sent. If we hop over into our mailbox here, we just got our email, right? So this is what this looks like. It's saying, hey, Cato enables you to conveniently log into your Cato PMM account from any device, which is the name of the organization in this case. All you need to do is configure your devices and start going. So what we'll do is we'll click here to activate it. It's going to take us to the Cato user portal. And first it's going to ask us to create a password. Oops. can't type today. There we go, we've created a password. Now it's saved. And now it's going to take us into the user portal. So the first thing the user can do is they can, download the appropriate client version for whichever devices they want to use. We support Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, and Linux. They can also go here and download the certificate that they need as well for whatever devices they're using. Now, in my case, in the case of my machine, I already have the certificate and the client downloaded. But something really nice here too is we can go back and we can download a configuration profile, right? So the user doesn't have to actually go and type in their password in this case. They can just click download the profile. The profile will download, and you can see it here. I'll go ahead and open it. And it's going to say, we strongly recommend deleting your credential file. You don't want to keep it around just in case. You can just hit delete and it'll do it automatically for you. So we click delete. The profile is loaded, but has also been deleted from the file. And then we can open our Kiddo client. So let me drag this over here. And here's our new user that we loaded, saseexpert@cato.marketing. And we go home and we can click connect. And there we go. Just a couple of minutes with very limited interaction from IT. This user has been able to get running and can start accessing the internet and cloud resources securely, as well as whatever private resources are defined by policy. So super powerful and really enables you to be very agile with your organization. And there's a benefit here that a lot of people don't always think about. And when you think about hiring, we've worked in this world where you hire people, the best person for the job who lives within an hour or whatever reasonable commute they're willing to make to your office location. Now, if you think about that, that's a very small pool of candidates, or someone who will move close to your office location, which that's possible too. But it's a very small pool of candidates. And so when you think about a more remote global world, the location of the user doesn't matter as much. So now you can open your pool of candidates to the best user in the state, the best employee in the country, the best employee in the world. It doesn't matter where the user is located anymore. They can enjoy the same security and connectivity benefits as an office user and be just as productive. So now that that's done, let's take a look at some of the other capabilities in the Cato SASE platform. So out of the box, there are predefined security and networking capabilities. Let's start with networking. Networking is extremely important, but it should be simple. Simple to manage, simple to deliver. And we live in an age where bandwidth is getting cheaper, and we keep buying more bandwidth for our users. And you know what happens when you buy more bandwidth for your users? The same thing that happens when I buy my kids more ice cream. Put more ice cream in the freezer, all the ice cream is gone. It doesn't matter how much ice cream you buy, it's going to be used. Same with bandwidth. The more bandwidth you give a user, the more bandwidth a user will use. And so eventually you get to the point where just because bandwidth is cheap doesn't mean you're really having a positive impact on the organization by buying more of it. So we really want to prioritize traffic that is essential to the organization and deprioritize things that are maybe less important, especially at times when there's congestion and different applications are fighting over that bandwidth. So out of the box, Cato has 4 pre-configured bandwidth priority levels, P10 through P40, and each one of these represents a common use case. P10 is VoIP and video, so this could be Ring Central, Zoom, anything like that, super critical to the business. And then maybe you have RDP, SMB file transfer, other WAN data, and lastly at the default you have the internet traffic. Now you can customize limits and create multiple limits or priority levels, I guess, that you like, and you can set limits as far as how this traffic is handled, right? So if you want to always limit, so a good example of that is if maybe you don't want to block YouTube, you want to let your employees use it, maybe you have training content on there that they need to access, you can limit that to a percentage of total bandwidth, or you can limit it only when congestion is happening. Now these out of the box priority levels are already used in out of the box network rules. So we have all of the most common use cases covered here. And you can see that we're splitting up these different priority levels and controlling this traffic and prioritizing. So if we go ahead and click on our internet, voice, and video, we can go ahead and see that this rule is pre-created out of the box. The source is any, but really the app category here is VoIP video. So this will apply to all the traffic we discussed. VoIP and video applications that especially in the remote world are becoming more and more essential. But what really is important here is our configuration. So here we can see that we're applying the bandwidth priority level of 10. And the best practice for VoIP is to not enable TCP acceleration. But if you're doing like SMB file transfer or something like that, you might want to enable that, and you'll get a really nice performance increase in most cases for your users. We could also do packet loss mitigation, which is a great feature. And we're also using Cato's global private backbone here, right? So we're dynamically routing for the best performance possible across our backbone, but we also give you granular control as well. So if you want to make some configurations here, maybe you know that the server that you're trying to reach is located in a specific geographic region. You can easily come in here, select route via or NAT, and either egress from a private IP address or egress from a specific Cato POP location. So any of our POPs are available for you to route traffic through. And it's really simple as just clicking here. And the same thing if you want to egress from a private dedicated IP, right? We'll select NAT instead of route via. And then here we have some of the pre-allocated IP addresses that I've allocated to this account. And you can easily click one and egress your traffic from that private IP. That's great for enhancing your security posture with source IP anchoring or adaptive MFA policies. And it takes no extra effort, and there's no performance problems. You don't have to backhaul your traffic to your location in order to have a dedicated IP address. You can do it easily here in just a few mouse clicks. So now that we've reviewed the built-in network rules, let's also take a look at our built-in security rules. So a couple things to note is, out of the box, Cato has a variety of security capabilities. And there's no easy way to say this, but the business case is really that you want to be secure, but you also want to enable your users and not create problems for them where they're looking to circumvent security. Last thing you want is your organization to hit their reputation, financial loss, and for you as an employee, that could also be very damaging if you have a security incident. In this case, we're going to look at the internet firewall. I do have some custom rules configured here under lab rules, but there's a couple things here that are out of the box, right? So once you get a brand new Cato instance, the firewall is disabled by default. You just turn it on, and then you have all these rules. The quick rules are due to me having our CASB enabled. You have to block quick in order to use CASB. But out of the box, we have the most common uses covered as far as blocking and prompting, right? So we're going to block SMB over the internet, SMTP over the internet, the onion router, as well as other peer-to-peer file sharing applications. But then we come down more into policy-driven types of things, right? So we want to block categories that include drugs, phishing, botnets, compromised sites, adult content, any of that stuff. And then we have some other stuff that is maybe less damaging to the organization or less risky. And for those, we can prompt the user, right? Maybe this is not something you should be looking at, but we're going to trust you, and you can decide if it's something that you should load, right? They get to make that decision. And these are all available out of the box, right? So really with very little effort, you can have a base standard of security following the best practices. And then as time goes on, you can fine tune this for your organization. But beyond that, right, we always looked at these kind of firewall rules as being security. And I'll tell you that our internet firewall policy, while there is a security benefit to being as zero trust as possible when it relates to what users can access, these are mainly about your corporate policy. Okay, we're no longer blocking things mainly because there might be a malware there. What we're going to do in the SASE world is to really inspect all traffic for malware, and then we're going to block things for policy. And this strengthens us overall, but the assumption is that all traffic should be inspected. And so if you take a look at our IPS engine, out of the box, it comes like this, and it has the best practices, right? We're gonna block things in WAN, we're gonna block things inbound, outbound that are a problem. You can also do some other nice things here, right? Geo restriction. I have block Russia configured. Chances are there are some very risky nations that you'd really have no legitimate need to communicate with. In Russia, North Korea, Iran, Myanmar. And it could be whatever makes sense for your organization. You can create some very specific exceptions if you want, but overall, it's an easier way to elevate your security posture with very little effort. Now, this is kind of on universally, right? Of course, you can create exceptions as required, but the idea here is that you're coming with a default standard of security. So no longer do you have to take, firewall policies and build security profiles and then attach profiles to very specific policies. Sure, very granular control, but also very complex, and it's very, very easy to have misconfigurations that leave you exposed. And the same with anti-malware here, right? Anti-malware and our next generation anti-malware, which provides protection against zero-day and polymorphic threats in real time, rather than the riskiness of sandboxing. They're on and they're inspecting all traffic all the time, unless you create an exception. And so what's great here is out of the box, suspicious things will be allowed, but we're definitely gonna track that and log that in our event log, and then anything malicious will outright be blocked. Of course, exceptions are possible, but generally you can just onboard into a brand new Cato environment, make sure all of your security engines are on, and you have a much more safer and secure posture than you did before. So let's talk about connectivity. Beyond the network connectivity, and we have the user agent connected, and now we have our sockets connected. All of that is up and running. But how do we allow our staff or our people access to resources? So one of the brilliant things about what SASE is supposed to be is it's really supposed to provide full connectivity between all edges. So this is anything that's connected into the SASE cloud, whether it be a location, a cloud data center, or a user. So in the Cato management application, we have our WAN firewall. So our WAN firewall controls all traffic, passing between sites and locations and users. Now, in this case, we have no policies configured, and the WAN firewall takes an allow-less approach by default. So that means that nothing here will be allowed unless it is explicitly defined by policy. So for this, let's say we want to allow our IT staff, to be able to access anything over RDP. They have a need, they should be able to remote into anything at any of our sites. Let's go ahead and do that. The first thing, we don't have a group for that yet. So, if we were configuring sync, we would have all of our groups pulled over. But we can go ahead and go to assets and groups, and you see we have just the standard groups here. So I'm going to create a new group here. We'll just call it IT admins. And of course, there's no users in this group yet, right? For this really work, I'd have to add users, but I'm just going to illustrate to you how quick and easy it is to take this group and give it access to RDP at our sites. So now that's created, let's go back to our WAN firewall. We're going to click New to make a new rule. And we're going to call this RDP access for IT. Okay? Rule order is 1, it's the only rule. Source, so we'll make this a group, IT admins. So this will allow traffic from IT admins based on everything else we configure. You can also provide device context, right? So maybe you only allow users that are in this policy to successfully access resources when they're in a specific country, right? If they're traveling abroad, maybe you want to limit the risk. You also want to make sure that their system is up to date or running the antivirus protection and it's enabled. All those things you can do here. For this, we're just going to leave these as any. And then destination, right? So you can definitely do this as any, and this would allow the IT admins to be able to access anything, across Cato. But for these purposes, let's limit it a little bit, following our least privileged principles. And let's say we just want to give them access to the Houston site, right? So we have all of our sites here. We'll click Houston. And that's really where this group is going to be working, right? They're going to remote in and help users in Houston that have problems or servers or whatever the case is. Now for app and category, we can go ahead and leave that. We're going to put any because we're going to go ahead and specify the service, right? We're going to go here, and for service, we're going to put RDP. So we have RDP here, and last thing I have to do is configure our action. So the default is block. We're going to change this to allow, but we're also going to put track an event, right? We want to audit every time that this policy is hit so that we know, who's doing what and when they're doing it. And then we can also limit this to specific times of the day. But if you think about, what an IT admin is doing, there's really, any time they could need to use this. So go ahead and apply. And our policy has been created and added to the list. All we have to do now is click save. And in a few minutes, once it synchronizes across the cloud, our IT admins will have access to anything in Houston over RDP. And it's that simple. So let's go ahead and click save, and that'll go ahead and take effect. Now, something else to consider, right? We talked about the security capabilities and the next generation firewall capabilities built into the service is TLS inspection. Now, I have spoken to a lot of customers or prospects or people in the past that they're not doing TLS inspection for a variety of reasons. One, the idea is, or the conception is that it is, not conception, perception, sorry, is that it's very hard. It can be scary, you can break a lot of things, you can have problems, and that's nothing anyone wants to deal with. The second side of it is really that it's expensive, right? In the legacy model, if you figure, you size your hardware, you deploy your hardware, okay, you turn on your security capabilities, you're going to lose some bandwidth, maybe you need to buy more hardware, but you turn on TLS inspection and you're definitely going to need more hardware, right? You're probably going to need double or even more hardware depending on, how much traffic you're inspecting. And, from a security perspective, you should inspect as much TLS traffic as possible. And, recent estimates by Google show that in the last, 6 months, over 90% of traffic loaded into Google was loaded over TLS. And bad actors are using this too. I mean, there's tons of easy ways for them to leverage TLS encryption in order to send malware and other threats to you. First is Let's Encrypt, which can provide you with free certificates. So definitely an easy way for them to get off the ground there. But second and possibly more popular way is just by leveraging trusted services that exist already, right? You might be seeing a lot of malware or threat activity coming from Office 365 or Azure or Box or Dropbox. So legitimate services being used to deliver this content. Over TLS inspection, if you're not inspecting it, you're completely blind and definitely have a gap in your posture. So if we go to TLS inspection over here, I have already enabled and configured this. Now keep in mind, for this to work, all of your devices that are passing through this need to have the Kiddo certificate installed. But there's a couple of best practices here. So I took the most common approach, I think, and it's the best case for most organizations, is to really bypass the two things that are very sensitive to privacy. So finance, health, and medicine are things that we typically don't want to inspect. So I've created this policy here, and I'm inspecting traffic now. I didn't have to buy any appliances, I didn't have to size, I didn't have to do any complicated configurations. I also didn't have to, make selections on what I inspect based on performance. I was able to select what makes the most sense for my organization. And that's what SASE is all about. It's really enabling the best outcome and the best methods for your organization without those limitations and lack of agility that we had with the legacy appliance days. So this is up and working. There's also the alternative approach that some organizations can take if they're, have some more compliance needs or a little more sensitive to privacy, and that is to select categories to inspect, right? So rather than, bypassing just finance and health and medicine, instead they'll just select the riskiest categories that they've identified, inspect only of those. But here it's super easy. We can go ahead and create, a new policy or edit this existing one. And we can pick our source, right? So you can have different policies based on the source host, all the same context that we use in our other policies. You can do that here as well. And then what, right? We can do, specific domains, applications, application categories, ports, protocols. It's really up to you, and you have full control and power over what you're inspecting. And then down here, right, we can, bypass or inspect depending on what we want to do with this policy. But for now, we're just going to leave this policy that we have here. Very simple, easy to use, and really, really productive. So that being said, I think we're about to wrap up this demo. But I really want to leave you with a couple of points, right? If you think about what we've done in just a few minutes here today, we've onboarded a site. We've created high availability at that site. So that means that no matter what your business is, if you have a need to expand rapidly, set up a temporary location, you're doing mergers and acquisitions, SASE enables you to move as quickly as you want to. Okay, technology and appliances and waiting for hardware is no longer a barrier to your progress. You can advance your business through technology without having it work against you. Now the other things that we did was we reviewed security, and really great thing here is single management application, single policy sets. Right? You don't have to have multiple devices running different software versions, different policies. It's all there. And especially in that mergers and acquisitions use case, or onboarding a contractor. They're onboarded and they are under your security policy, and it's very consistent. You don't have to worry about there being gaps or misconfigurations. Now we also took a look at our optimization and QoS capabilities, and we have different bandwidth priority levels out of the box, but what's wonderful about this is they apply to our remote users as well, and not just to locations. So we can keep users productive, right? So we can keep them online, we can keep them connected to the best performing POP for them, but we can also ensure that their traffic is flowing as we expect, with the reliability and predictability that we need in order for them to do their jobs. A lot of users are heavily dependent nowadays, especially remote users, on the internet in general. And they could be getting their VoIP phone over it. They can be doing Teams or Zoom meetings, working with cloud-based applications. There's Google Apps and Office 365 all have cloud-based versions that make it super easy to collaborate. But imagine if this is slow or unreliable or just unavailable. Everything comes to a halt, and your users lose productivity. They might get frustrated. They might have to work additional hours, and it's really not great for them or for your business. We also took a look at TLS inspection. TLS inspection doesn't get talked about enough, but in relation to the rest of our security engines and all of the other things that we're doing to protect ourselves, if we're not doing TLS inspection, we're really doing ourselves a misservice. We're missing 90% of traffic or more that comes to the organization. And it's really a problem. And other things that we can do here, we can quickly and easily, block specific sites if we want. We can allow sites, we can provide connectivity. We can quickly onboard contractors or third parties to give them access to systems if we need to. It really gives us the agility and flexibility to, be ready for whatever's next, right? Whatever our business is taking us, we can enable the business and we can focus on our core business rather than the chores that we used to do with legacy appliances. And lastly, right, you've seen it firsthand. It really doesn't take a ton of specialized knowledge, right? Anyone with a basic understanding of networking and security and IT concepts can quickly figure out and intuitively use a SASE single management application. Now, results may vary depending on which SASE vendor you're looking at, but the idea is it should be the same. It should be consistent. It should be easy to adopt and enable your business rather than hinder it. So thank you again for watching this demo, and I hope you're enjoying the SASE certification, and we'll see you next time.